Hi, everybody. I'm Mike. This is a bunch of Guns and Gear reviews, and you are listening to the Right Other People single shot, where it's just you, me, and whatever topic is trip my trigger today. So uncover your keyboard, fire up your fingers, and come join the conversation.
Hey there, everybody. Those of you who were in Clover's chat, you already know this. Anyone who's been paying attention to the news tonight understands this and already knows it. But I'm going to bring it to you anyway, because, hey, that's what I do, right? President Trump just announced at 9 o'clock his pick for his replacement for Anthony Kennedy on the Supreme Court of the United States, and that is Brett Kavanaugh, who is a justice on the D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals. So what does this mean for us? Well, it's someone that, on the surface at least, appears to be pro-gun, which is a good thing. Just remember, though, that's on the surface. On the surface, at least, Kennedy appeared to be a conservative and ended up being known as the swing vote of the Supreme Court. So, Souter appeared to be conservative and was not. So it's, the proof is in the pudding, as they say, or in this case, the proof is in how he sides on the different issues. But one thing that we can do is look at past performance to indicate future behavior. And let me see if I can screen share this. I may not be up on such wonderful technology. Let me see if I can figure it out. There we go. Screen share. Application window. This one right here. Hey, how about that? I figured it out. From a piece in Reason Magazine by Jacob Sullum on July 6th, SCOTUS contender Brett Kavanaugh on gun rights, search and seizure, and mens rea. The D.C. Circuit Judge is a strong defender of the Second Amendment, but seems less inclined to accept Fourth Amendment claims. Last week, I suggested that whoever replaces Anthony Kennedy on the Supreme Court probably will be more receptive to cases that challenge gun control laws on Second Amendment grounds. That certainly seems to be true of Brett Kavanaugh, who by some accounts is the leading contender for Donald Trump's second Supreme Court nomination, which the president plans to announce Monday night. And speaking parenthetically, of course, which we know he did announce and is nominating this gentleman. Kavanaugh, who has served on the U.S. Court of Appeals for the D.C. Circuit since 2006, dissented from a 2011 decision in which a three-judge panel upheld the District of Columbia's ban on so-called assault weapons and its requirement that all guns be registered. Kavanaugh disagreed with the majority's use of intermediate scrutiny, saying an analysis based on text, history, and tradition is more consistent with the Supreme Court's Second Amendment precedents. The D.C. assault weapon ban covers a list of specific models as well as guns that meet certain criteria. A semi-automatic rifle that accepts a detachable magazine is illegal, for instance, if it has any, I don't care if bite fences, who cares? If it has any of 6 prohibited features, including an adjustable stock, a pistol grip, or a flash suppressor. The list appears to be haphazard, Kavanaugh noted. It banned certain semi-automatic rifles, but not others, with no particular explanation or rationale for why some made the list and some did not. In any case, he concluded, the law is inconsistent with the landmark 2008 case, District of Columbia versus Heller. In Heller, Kavanaugh noted, the Supreme Court held that handguns, the vast majority of which today are semi-automatic, are constitutionally protected because they have not traditionally been banned and are in common use by law-abiding citizens. There is no meaningful or persuasive constitutional distinction between semi-automatic handguns and semi-automatic rifles. Semi-automatic rifles, like semi-automatic handguns, have not traditionally been banned and are in common use by law-abiding citizens for self-defense in the home, hunting, and other lawful uses. Moreover, semi-automatic handguns are used in connection with violent crimes far more than semi-automatic rifles are. It follows from Heller's protection of semi-automatic handguns that semi-automatic rifles are also constitutionally protected and that D.C.'s ban on them is unconstitutional. Although Heller suggested that various long-standing gun restrictions would pass constitutional muster, Kavanaugh said D.C.'s gun restriction system does not qualify because the vast majority of states have not traditionally required and even now do not require registration of lawfully possessed guns, he wrote. D.C.'s registration law, which is the strictest in the nation and mandates registration of all guns, does not satisfy the history and tradition-based test set forth in Heller. So there you go. That is Judge Kavanaugh's take on the Second Amendment. So far, that looks pretty encouraging. So let's go out to the chat, by the way, now that there's some people in here. Mateo 674, Philo. Let's see, who else? Roll call. Roosted. General Relativity. Glad you guys would stop by. I appreciate it. So yeah, that's it, man. That's what we know, or what I could find with a couple minutes of Google of Judge Kavanaugh's stance on the Second Amendment, which appears to be a good thing for us. I've been saying over and over and over again, and I will continue to say, particularly as we come up for the re-election, that the best thing that we did was vote President Trump into office in order to keep Hillary Clinton away from getting Supreme Court picks, because you can guarantee one thing: anyone that she picked would have been the enemy of the Second Amendment. General Relativity says, I believe he still has to be confirmed by Congress, correct? Yes, the Senate has to confirm. In the past, it was necessary to have a 60-vote supermajority in order to confirm a Supreme Court nominee or any judge, any federal court nominee. However, that I believe the Democrats changed that. I could be wrong. It might have been Republicans, but now it is just a 51 vote tally needed. So I don't expect that he will not be confirmed. However, I do expect that the Democrats and or liberals will be raising holy hell, doing everything they can to flip a Republican, because if even one doesn't vote this way, then he might not get confirmed, which would be pretty crappy. Mateo 674 says that's why the Dems are pulling the bit about we need to wait till after the midterms since we waited for the presidential elections. Yeah, that's why they're trying this. However, you know, they're comparing apples to oranges there. For one, it was a presidential election cycle as opposed to a midterm election cycle. And there is precedent for the Senate to approve a Supreme Court nominee in a midterm election cycle. I believe Kagan and possibly Sotomayor were approved during a midterm election cycle. So, you know, if we can do it for them, then they can do it for us. Well, them and us, you know what I mean. So, yeah, this could be staggeringly huge for Second Amendment rights. The court really has not taken a Second Amendment case since Heller. Maybe they were all worried. Mateo 674 says Sotomayor was not sure about Kagan. So yeah, and one or both of them was approved during a midterm election cycle anyway. But yeah, this is could be staggeringly huge for the Second Amendment, because the court hasn't taken any 2A cases in since Heller. Whether that's because someone was not sure how Kennedy would vote, since he did swing from time to time. Don't know. That has been floated. But one thing is, this would seem on the surface to set a solid 5-4 on the Supreme Court. Now, that could change. You know, Judge Kavanaugh could decide that he's going to be Kennedy all over and flip-flop. Who knows? Mateo 674 says hopefully they'll take some 2A cases. Maybe. I suspect that they will, but, you know, I could be wrong. What will be interesting is to see now how long Ginsburg holds out on the Supreme Court. I've heard speculation by several pundits that she's really been trying to hold out, and hold out to see how the presidential election goes, to see if Trump gets reelected or not. You know, if he doesn't get reelected, she'll certainly retire then. If he does, well, I don't know. We'll see. If she does, that will absolutely give Trump another Supreme Court pick, and that could very well make it a 6-3 majority on the Supreme Court, which would have staggering implications for the country for the next 30 years. I think that would be very encouraging for the Second Amendment. Philo says Ginsburg will hang in by her last tooth. Yeah, no kidding. Plus all of her fake ones. General Relativity says more interested in internet commerce and gay rights than the Bill of Rights. Yeah. I'd love to see the Peruta case get taken up, and I'd love to see Ginsburg leave. She should have been kicked out for her comment about our Constitution while visiting another country. Yeah, she should have. Unfortunately, there is no mechanism by which you can relieve a Supreme Court justice. I mean, that also has its good things, though, because they can't really be swayed by popular opinion, by political pressure, because, you know, hey, they're supreme. They're there for life, and you can't do squat about it. So I can see why that is. It allows someone to stand on their principles and their beliefs without caving to political pressure. But, you know, on the other hand, man, if they're a bad one, they're a bad one, you know, and you're stuck with them till they decide to retire or expire of natural causes. So yeah, that's I think that I'm encouraged by the president's SCOTUS pick here. You know, I'm encouraged. I'm looking at this. You know, I would have probably preferred someone else that was a little bit stronger. They had a stronger record anyway on the Second Amendment, but so far, I'm optimistic. Anyway, thanks for stopping in and being part of this conversation. Oh, Philo says I'd like to see one of these red flag laws make it to the Supreme Court. Yeah, so would I. I think that those red flag laws are horrifical. Yes, horrifical. That's a word. I made it up. I think they're horrific on due process grounds. We've talked about that before. And I would love to see those all struck down because of due process. But it'll take someone being the test case and getting it accepted at the Supreme Court level for that to happen. Now, that's the sad thing about our system, is it does take someone getting screwed over before it can be taken to the Supreme Court and ruled on like that. But anyway, thank you everybody for stopping in and being part of the conversation. I very much appreciate it. This again, I'm going to leave you with the message that this Supreme Court nomination business is exactly why it was so important to have Trump in the White House, and it's exactly why it's so important that we keep a majority in the Senate. We have to get the vote out. We have to make sure that everybody we know that has conservative leanings and who is likely to vote conservative gets out and votes, so that during this midterm election, so that we can keep the majority in the Senate. Because if we don't have the majority in the Senate, well, it really doesn't matter who the president nominates, because they'll be stymied and stonewalled at every turn. So make sure that you also keep on your Congress critters and your senators. You know, as I always say, send them smoke signals, telegraphs, heligraphs, carrier pigeons, telegrams. It don't matter. Do whatever you have to do to let them know what you think, and never, ever, ever give up the fight. I'll see you guys on the next one.